The failures of the armed forces of Ukraine on the battlefield and the agony of the Ukrainian army in the Donbass are forcing the Ukrainian High Military Command to take more desperate measures. Unfortunately for the Kiev authorities and their Western curators, the adventure of the Ukrainian General Staff in the KURSK region completely failed. The fact is that with the invasion of the KURSK region, the Ukrainian High Military Command and its NATO military advisors pursued two goals: the seizure of the Kursk nuclear power plant and the displacement of units of the Russian armed forces from Donbass, where the armed forces of Ukraine continue to retreat rapidly, surrendering dozens of strategically important settlements to the Russian army. And now, 2 weeks after the invasion, practically all world analytical centers have admitted that the armed forces of Ukraine have not been able to achieve any of their goals in the Kursk region. Unfortunately for the Kiev authorities, the Ukrainian army, even despite unprecedented support from NATO, was unable to capture the Kursk nuclear power plant and forced the Russian High Military Command to begin a large-scale transfer of Russian troops to the Kursk region. Unfortunately for the Kiev authorities and their Western patrons, Russia is not even in a hurry to dislodge the Ukrainian armed forces units from the Kursk region, keeping the situation under control with the help of small units of the Russian armed forces, numbering only 5,000 soldiers. Against this backdrop, the Ukrainian General Staff began to change the tactics of the armed forces of Ukraine, trying to take control of as much Russian territory as possible. Realizing that Russian troops had completely chained the Ukrainian armed forces in the Kursk region, preventing the Ukrainian army units from moving forward, the Ukrainian High Military Command began to strike at other Russian regions, Belgorod and Bryansk. However, unfortunately for the Ukrainian armed forces, the defensive lines of Russian troops in the Belgorod region turned out to be so powerful that the Ukrainian army units had to retreat with heavy losses. And now, just a few hours ago, the governor of the Bryansk region, Alexander Bogomaz, announced that the forces of the border department of the Russian FSB managed to destroy several Ukrainian sabotage and reconnaissance groups that broke into the territory of the border settlement of Klimovo in the Bryansk region. All this indicates that the Ukrainian High Military Command does not want to repeat the mistake with the Belgorod region, and is trying to find out the level of power of the defensive lines in the Bryansk region, before attempting to seize territories in this sector of the front. Thus, it becomes clear that the Kiev regime and its Western curators really hope that the seizure of Russian territories will help them avoid signing a peace treaty on Moscow's terms. However, these plans and hopes of the Kiev regime and their Western curators are doomed to complete failure. The fact is that it is very profitable for Moscow that the Ukrainian army and NATO forces are throwing their last resources and reserves to capture Russian border towns and villages, while incurring huge losses in manpower and equipment. The fact is that the concentration of Ukrainian and NATO forces in the Kursk region had a favorable effect on the advance of Russian troops in the Donbass. The Russian army liberates 5-6 settlements in Donbass almost every week. At this rate, Russian troops will soon liberate the entire Donbass, which will eventually lead to the collapse of the Kiev regime, and force Ukraine to sign a peace treaty on Russian terms. As a result, the Ukrainian army and NATO forces will have to voluntarily leave the territory of the Kursk region, which will allow the Kremlin to avoid large-scale destruction in towns and villages of this Russian region. Meanwhile, independent Russian and Western military experts have admitted that the Ukrainian armed forces have deployed up to 30,000 soldiers in the Kursk region. It is reported that these are the best units of the armed forces of Ukraine, transferred from other directions of the front. In addition, these units of the armed forces of Ukraine are significantly strengthened by NATO special forces, who are fighting in the Kursk region under a false flag.
Moreover, the Ukrainian Army is also reinforced by numerous American private military companies, which contain former and current U.S. Army Rangers.
It is reported that all these NATO soldiers and U.S. Army Rangers are fighting in the Kursk region in the uniform of soldiers of the Ukrainian Army. Against this backdrop, Western military journalists are in a state of shock. They don't understand how 5,000 Russian troops managed to keep the situation in the Kursk region under control, in the face of 30,000 enemy troops. Many experts and analysts are confident that this was made possible due to the air superiority of Russian combat aviation, and the professional actions of experienced fighters of the group of troops under the designation Sever, Spetsnaz Akhmat, and Russian Marines from the 810th Marine Brigade of the Black Sea Fleet. By the way, Russian Marines publish videos on the internet almost every day, where the destruction of another enemy column is clearly visible. In addition, Russian Marines show dozens of footage of the capture of not only Ukrainian nationalists, but also so-called foreign mercenaries, many of whom are active duty soldiers and officers of armies of NATO countries, fighting in the uniform of Ukrainian soldiers. According to war correspondents, the morgues of the city of Sumy are overflowing with the corpses of foreign mercenaries. It is reported that these are mainly Polish, French, Georgian, British, and US citizens. By the way, today, the Russian military department officially announced that as of August 23, 2024, the Ukrainian Army and NATO forces lost 4,700 soldiers in the Kursk region. Against this backdrop, a well-known military journalist and blogger Yuri Podolyaka said that the Kursk adventure of the Kiev authorities led to the fact that the best and elite units of the armed forces of Ukraine are being irretrievably destroyed in this Russian region. And it is no longer possible to replace these elite units of the armed forces of Ukraine. Even NATO forces are unable to change the situation, as they also suffer huge losses in the confrontation with Russian troops. Against this backdrop, many military experts have already called the attack of the Ukrainian Army and NATO forces on the Kursk region the most disastrous military operation in the 21st century. And this military operation will be the beginning of the end not only of the armed forces of Ukraine, but also of the North Atlantic Alliance.